You don't stop living your life. You still wake up, still work, still scroll, still message people you care about, still make plans. But slowly, without any announcement, something changes. You don't enter life anymore. You check it, you preview it, you optimize for it, you fit it in around something else. Real life becomes the thing you return to after the feed, after the simulation, after the digital layer has already shaped the moment. The algorithms now decide what you see, what you anticipate, and what feels worth showing up for. Not because you chose that, not because you prefer it, but because it's what's left when everything else is unavailable. Reality doesn't disappear. It becomes secondary, a fallback, and most people never notice the exact day that happened. There was a time when reality carried weight simply because it was unavoidable. If something mattered, it happened here, in bodies, in rooms, in moments that could not be paused, edited, or replayed. Presence wasn't a lifestyle choice, it was the price of admission. You had to show up, you had to commit, you had to risk missing something else. A conversation mattered because it couldn't be rewound. A moment mattered because it wouldn't repeat. A decision mattered because you had to live with it. Reality demanded effort. Effort wasn't an inconvenience, it was the signal that something mattered. If it cost you energy, attention, or risk, it carried weight. And because it demanded effort, it produced meaning. You planned around it, saved energy for it, oriented your life toward it. Even imagination pointed back to lived experience. Stories pulled you deeper into the world. Ambition asked you to step into it. Reality wasn't always kind. It wasn't always fair, but it was primary. And because it was primary, it shaped identity. You didn't curate who you were. You became someone through exposure, friction, and moments you couldn't skip or optimize away. Who you were was inseparable from what you actually lived. Reality wasn't replaced overnight, it was gently competed with. Other spaces didn't arrive as replacements for life. They arrived as supplements. Supplements feel harmless because they promise improvement without sacrifice, more without loss, enhancement without replacement, more convenient, more responsive, more controlled, less exposed to friction or disappointment. At first, they felt like extensions of reality, ways to connect, ways to prepare, ways to explore without risk. But over time, something subtle shifted. The digital layer stopped pointing toward life. It started running ahead of it. Machine learning systems now predict what you'll want before you experience it. Anticipation used to belong to the future. Now it arrives pre-packaged, reducing life to confirmation rather than encounter. You could preview places before visiting them, rehearse conversations before having them, experience versions of events without attending. Gradually, reality stopped being the first encounter. It became the confirmation step, and once that happens, the emotional order reverses. The digital experience carries expectation. Reality carries comparison. If reality disappoints, it feels like failure. If it matches expectations, it feels neutral. If it exceeds them, it feels rare. This is the moment real life becomes optional, not irrelevant, not meaningless, just no longer dominant. Something you fit in, rather than organize everything around. This is where the loss becomes personal. You still live, but life starts to feel thinner, not empty, not meaningless, just less resistant, as if fewer moments push back hard enough to leave a mark. Moments feel less absorbing, events feel less significant, experiences feel oddly muted, not because they're bad, but because they're no longer carrying the full weight of meaning. You notice it when you attend something important but feel detached. You document moments more than you inhabit them. You feel relief when plans are cancelled. You feel tired before anything begins. Real life now competes with more predictable alternatives. You see the best moments of an event you never went to, and it feels like enough. Alternatives curated, ranked, and refined by AI systems designed to maximize engagement. It's slower, messier, less optimized, and in a world trained on efficiency, that makes it harder to prioritize. So reality becomes the thing you do when nothing else is happening. The backup plan. And backup plans are never where you invest your best attention, only what you tolerate when the primary option isn't available. And this changes identity in a quiet but profound way. You stop asking, what kind of life do I want to live? You start asking, what's worth the effort of being fully present for? That's not apathy, that's demotion. When lived experience loses primacy, identity drifts away from the body and into abstraction. You become less inhabited. So what happens to meaning when reality is no longer the main event? It doesn't vanish, it fractures. Meaning used to arrive automatically through presence. You didn't have to manufacture it. It emerged from being somewhere fully, without comparison or escape. Now it has to be chosen deliberately. This is why so many people feel a low-grade grief they can't explain. Nothing is wrong. Life functions, opportunities exist. But something essential feels downgraded. When reality becomes secondary, meaning stops being ambient. It becomes work. You have to fight for attention, protect depth, choose slowness against optimization. And that's exhausting. Because choosing presence now feels like swimming against a current that never turns off. But it's also clarifying. Because meaning still exists, just no longer by default. It appears in moments where you refuse substitution, where you stay longer than necessary, where you accept friction, where you choose presence without optimization. Not because it's efficient, but because it's real. This is the quiet truth beneath the grief. Meaning doesn't die when reality is demoted. It becomes intentional, and that changes what kind of human you have to be. Reality didn't stop mattering. It stopped being guaranteed. If this stirred something heavy, that's because it touches a real loss. When real life becomes the backup plan, meaning doesn't disappear. It becomes something we have to protect on purpose. Subscribe to become part of the Unlocked, where we explore what still matters when the world quietly rearranges what counts as real. And if someone you know has felt this demotion but never had words for it, share this with them. Because the most profound shift isn't that we live less, it's that living no longer sits at the center by default. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.